Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me for my March recap where I share with you what's been going on with me in the month of March, tarot related and otherwise. So March was a pretty rough month for me, I'm not gonna lie. There were some job-related stresses, and then on top of that, I was dealing with a pretty sick cat, my eldest Juju, whom you might have seen in some of my other videos. She is usually the cat sitting by that vent there. Not the one that video bombs me, but she's pretty quiet and docile, and she just sits in the back by the vent because that's like one of her favorite places. It's warm and toasty, and she just loves to roast by the vent. Well, she's 16 years old and she just hasn't been doing well. She has lost a significant amount of weight, and we spent the month running tests on her and just coming up with a lot of soft results but no hard diagnosis. And so we've opted to stop with the testing and just put the money towards treating her at this point. But yeah, she just hasn't been feeling well. We have her on a steroid and we're just gonna see if that helps any. It's kind of like a pause button, but ultimately, given the tests that we did run and the soft results that we did receive, my vet thinks that she has liver cancer. So the steroid is merely just to make her comfortable, maybe make her gain some more weight. It's really just a wait and see period right now. That's been what I've been dealing with, so it's been a blur. I've felt pretty burned out, and I'm hoping that April will be a little more low-key, a little less stressful, and with the warmer weather here, I'm feeling optimistic. Let's talk about some tarot. The month of March, I worked with, tarot-wise, the Circle of Life tarot, which is a round deck, and I've put up a review of that deck if you're interested. So you can check out that video, and I won't say too much here other than I enjoyed my work with it. I wouldn't call it the easiest deck to work with. I just don't know if I love it enough to be called to use it again. Mainly because of the shape. It's just, circular decks are hard for me to work with and to shuffle, and so we'll see. And then for Oracle, I worked with the Victorian Flower Oracle from Baba Studios, and this is now out of print. I liked this deck. I didn't love the deck. My readings with this were pretty direct, and you know, you would think that because it's such a pretty, pretty images, flowers, you would think this deck might have more of a gentle and sweet personality, but I didn't find that to be the case. I found that this deck was pretty neutral and sometimes even cold, which I don't necessarily mind, but it reminded me a lot of Lenormand, which is cut to the chase. There's not really a warmth. It's just neutral. It tells it like it is, and that's all you're gonna get. So I think that I will hold on to this deck because I still enjoy the images. And also, like I said, this is out of print, so I don't want to prematurely, get rid of the deck, then regret my decision. So I'm gonna hold on to it for a while longer and see if I'm called to use it. And if I find that I'm just not interested in it anymore, then you know, I'll look into maybe, you know, selling it. I know I checked on eBay and this deck is going for some insane prices, but it is a sought after deck, so we'll see. I also had my first ever deck trade where I traded my Tarot of Vampires, which I know I had said in past videos that I was going to keep that deck, but I changed my mind. And I traded that deck for the Star Tarot, which I then proceeded to trim and edge in multicolors, very like rainbow colors to kind of match the very rainbow theme of this deck. And this had been on my wish list before, and it just kept getting bumped to the bottom because there were decks that I wanted more. So, but I was always interested in this deck. Some people feel like it is over the top, and I can't disagree, but I think that's what I like about it, that it is just, you know, it's Mother Nature just vomiting all over the place. I mean, you've got rainbows and unicorns, and it's great. That's the appeal for me. So I love the look of these cards trimmed. Some of you might know that I'm participating in Depth Year, and one of my guidelines for Depth Year is only one tarot or oracle deck purchase a month. So I kind of broke that guideline. I don't see this trade as counting because I didn't purchase it, I traded. I did purchase 2 decks this month, one being the Moonvoid Tarot by Stefanie Caponi, and it comes in a tuck box, but of course I had to buy a Peggy bag, which has this beautiful celestial pattern to kind of complement the celestial pattern here. So I saw this deck on Kat Widdowson's channel. She was doing a walkthrough, and I was immediately drawn to it. So I put it on the list to be purchased this month, and I plan to make this one of my working decks for the month, and I will probably also do a review of it once I've had a chance to get to know it better. And then the other deck that I purchased, so this was definitely a retail therapy purchase. I reverted back to my stress coping mechanism of retail therapy because, like I said, March was a monster. And so the deck that I ended up purchasing is a Disney themed deck. I don't even know how I came upon this deck, but it was on Etsy and it was on sale. I wasn't going to pay full price for it. And the description said that these images were original artwork that they then manipulated on or cleaned up on Photoshop or digitally. And when I took a look at some of the images, a couple of them, they did look like they were meant to show cards in progress. And so I really didn't look much further than that. I was just so happy that such a deck existed, and I was definitely on the like dopamine high of a purchase that I just quickly, I bought it. I bought it on sale. That was another reason that I felt like, oh, I should buy it because I don't really want to pay full price for this deck. And it's non-refundable. And it wasn't until I was waiting for this deck to be delivered that I was like, I wonder if these images are really original. And sure enough, when I got the deck, I immediately could tell that they're not. And going back to the Etsy shop and looking at the description, it looks like the sellers have since taken out that paragraph in the description that claims that this is original artwork, because it isn't. So that was the right thing for them to do. You know, it's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. You know, I haven't done a walkthrough of this deck, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to or not, but if you're interested in seeing a full walkthrough of this, let me know in the comments below, and I can certainly do that. Yeah, it's I have to say, I did start playing around with this towards the end of March, and it really cheered me up. This deck really cheered me up, despite its flaws, and it does have a few. But you know, Disney is, I mean, it's just so nostalgic of my childhood. Disney movies were like my happy place, and I remember watching them as such wonderful memories. And so this was a nice and gentle deck for me to use. There's only one image in here that I cannot stand, but other than that, yeah, I don't necessarily regret my purchase. I mean, like I said, kind of a shame that this is not original artwork, and honestly, if I had been a little more observant, you know, it's on me. I would have figured it out a lot sooner, but as I said, retail therapy at its finest. For books, I really didn't read all that much this month because I was just so tired. I was so tired this past month, but I did manage to finish Ella Enchanted. I got tired of taking this book out of the library and it being recalled and my no longer being able to renew it because I held it for so long that I just finally bought a copy. It's so cheap. And we have little libraries in our neighborhood, so I can just, you know, stick this in the little library for other people to read. But in any case, I mean, once I finally buckled down to read it, it took me like 2 days. It's such an easy read. It's a good read. It's well written. And then I spent a lot of the month reading my friend's manuscript because I agreed to beta read it for her. It's a historical romance, and yeah, it's when I beta read, it means that I have to read more carefully and make comments throughout the manuscript itself, and then provide more general feedback. So it is pretty involved. And luckily, you know, she is an awesome writer, so it's not painful for me to do. It's not a chore at all. And, you know, she was so kind enough to line edit my manuscript. And so we have this wonderful relationship where we share our work with each other. So I was able to finally finish that and get that feedback back to her. I did also on audio finish The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I had read this book years ago. I tore through it. I loved it. And since then, couldn't even remember what it was about. Wouldn't be able to tell you. And so I thought this would be a great book to listen to refamiliarize myself with the story during my commutes to and from work, and it was great. I didn't realize there was so much tarot in this novel, which is amazing. So that's a great book for those of you who have not yet read it. Okay, movies and TV. I didn't really watch that much. I was a zombie during March. But two things of note, one being Kit Bull, which is a Pixar short, and it was recommended by Sarah from Sunset Bow. She mentioned it in her February favorites video, I believe. And it is the story about a stray black cat and a pit bull who's in an abusive situation, and the unlikely friendship that they form. And Sarah was mentioning how, you know, tears would be shed, but ultimately it's an uplifting movie, and it's less than 10 minutes. But I still debated whether I wanted to watch this because I am very sensitive when it comes to animals being mistreated, animals in difficult situations. And even though this is an animation, even though this is not real, I am just that sensitive. So I wasn't sure that I wanted to put myself through that, but you know, I figured, okay, it's Pixar, Sarah says it's, you know, it is an uplifting movie, and it's Pixar, right? So it's gotta be. It's not a spoiler alert. It's gonna be a happy ending, right? It's less than 10 minutes. I can do this. So I did. I watched it. And I started bawling about 5 minutes in and didn't stop until the end. So yeah, it has a couple, you know, difficult parts, but it is worth seeing. It was very well done. There is no dialogue in this movie, and yet their narrative is just so complete, so fully developed. There's so much emotion. It's great. So I second Sarah's recommendation to go see this movie. I will link it. I believe it's still on YouTube. But I sent it to everyone. After I watched it, I texted it to Matt and my sister and my friends, and yeah, it's good. It's really good. And then the other movie that I watched was The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman, Michelle Williams, Zac Efron, and Zendaya, among others. And that was a great movie as well. It was about 2 hours, which is like the perfect time for me, the perfect length of a movie. Obviously, a very fictionalized and romanticized story of P.T. Barnum. And so you got to take that for what it is and just go along for the ride. It's great. I think my favorite aspect of this movie were the songs, for sure. I was impressed at how good the songs were, because when you have songs originally written for a musical movie, it can be really hit or miss, and I really liked all the songs, and I think the actors did a great job of performing them. For the month of April, tarot-wise, I already mentioned I will be working with the Moonvoid Tarot. I'll probably also be working with the Disney Tarot here and there as well, because I'm still having a lot of fun with that, and it's just an easy deck to work with. And then also I will be working with the Fairy Tarot, which is a Pip style deck from Lo Scarabeo. One of my depthier intentions is to work more with just Marseille, the Marseille system, even though this is not a traditional Marseille deck. I would like to give this one more attention and just see how I do with a Pip style deck. I'm also, in the month of April, going to be throwing the 1889 Lenormand into the mix. I received this deck over Christmas and haven't really worked with it. I've done a couple readings, but this is a very pretty tuck box. And then you have this little guidebook. And this is from they are called For the Seekers. That's the maker of this deck. But it's such a pretty deck, and it's time. It's time that I really start to work my way back to Lenormand. I've been feeling called to do that, and I think I've mentioned previously, I have been looking at some YouTube videos, again, just to dip my toes back in. I have watched a few Kelly videos, Kelly from Truth and Story, Donna Lay, and I'm excited to refamiliarize myself with the Lenormand. For books, the only one I have in mind to read so far in April is waiting for me at the library, actually, so I have to go pick it up because I placed it on hold, and it is called A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I'm afraid I don't remember the author's name, but I will put a picture of the cover up for you to see. And it's a fairy tale retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I've heard great things about it. It's gotten great reviews, so I'm looking forward to reading that. and then we'll see what comes after that. I also have to pick out an audiobook as well for my long commutes to and from work, so that is also to be determined. And those are my plans for April. As I've said, I am optimistic that this month will be better than the last, so fingers crossed. I hope that you are all doing well. I thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.